In this video, I make a perfectly round homemade dowel to plug the side input hole in a Strat type guitar body. At the end of the video, be sure to click the link to see how I made a template so I can route out the standard front mount Strat type input hole on the same guitar body. So the first thing that I'm going to do is drill out the old hole. And the reason I have to drill that out is because it's not a perfectly round hole. You can kind of tell it's more of an egg-shaped hole. It's been drilled twice with two different size bits. There's a small radius here and a larger radius up there. That would be impossible to plug perfectly. So the easiest thing to do is to re-drill it with a slightly bigger bit that is actually bigger than both of those holes. And that'll leave a nice clean hole, nice perfectly round hole for us to make the new plug. And these screw holes, they're not a real big problem right now. We can fix those later on. Well, there's the body all ready to go, clamped to my little contraption that I've rigged up here. This is kind of a large piece of wood that I've had hanging around the shop for years. I'll never throw this away. It's so useful. It's amazing. It's got to weigh 20 pounds. And it's great for stuff like this. I've used it for drilling input holes all the time because I can clamp the body to it and it's just sitting here on the base of the drill press. I've got the table moved right out of the way so I have lots of clearance. Just clamp it nice and tight with a little scrap piece of wood to protect the body, of course. What I've done is I just held that down and then went around and I drew a pencil line all the way around the hole. And the reason to do that is to make sure that I am going to take new wood all around that hole to make a completely, perfectly round new hole, if you know what I mean. There's the nice new round hole, and it's really important too that all that wood is nice and clean now. I don't have to worry about any overspray being in there. But I've only gone down about 5/8 of an inch, 3/4, somewhere around there. Just enough that the new plug will be deep enough. I don't have to go in like 3 or 4 inches or anything ridiculous. Just enough to get that covered. So let's go on to making the plug to fit that hole. I've got the wood set up here. I've just clamped it to my bench, and it looks a little large, but you really do have to pick a piece that's quite a bit larger because you're going to machine this down. And what I'm going to start off with, just to kind of get a rough, kind of roundish shape out of it, this is a really rough rasp file, and I'm just going to go at it, and it's not going to take long just to break off all those corners to get basically a round shape. So that's my roughed out piece now. What I do is I'm going to cut this off now and make it a little bit smaller, and then it's easier to work with for what I'm going to do next. Next step is to drill a hole down the center, not all the way, just a little bit, just deep enough to get this cut-off bolt in there. And that'll all make sense in a few minutes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, this is just a cut-off bolt. Like I said, that'll make sense in a few minutes. Vice grips on there. Just work that in. Make sure you don't get any splinters. Alright. It's in. It's in as far as it'll go. Alright, so now what we can do is put this in the drill press and turn it like a lathe. Okay, I've got my wooden plug set up in the drill press with the bolt. That's why the head of the bolt was cut off. So now I can spin very much like a lathe. And I really have to stress at this point, if you're going to do anything like this, really know what you're doing. I've done this a bunch of times, and I'm extremely careful whenever I do anything like this. First thing, wear eye protection and hearing protection. I mean, I don't really say a whole lot about that in my videos, but definitely, I mean, safety is huge. What I'm going to do is, I have the same rasp file that I was using before, and I'm just going to rest it up against the back of the drill press so it's flat. As this spins, I'm just going to bring this in gently. I'm not even hardly putting any pressure on it, just to get rid of any of the high spots on the plug. I'm not trying to put a huge amount of pressure in there, because if I do, there's a big chance that that's going to catch, and then the rasp is just going to fly out, and that's where it becomes dangerous. Is you don't want huge metal jaggedy objects flying through your shop, hitting yourself or damaging parts that are sitting around or whatever else. Before I get going too crazy on this, I just want to stop and take a look at this. And as I turn this around, it's looking pretty good, but I do still have a flat spot here on this side. So I still have a long way to go, but it's starting to become more round. I just have to get rid of this flat spot. Okay, I'm happy now that the plug is completely round. I don't want to go any further with the rasp file. So what I have here is a block that I made up a while back. It's got some really coarse, it's about 80 grit sandpaper on it, and I use it for this kind of thing. And because this is a 90-degree angle here, I can lay it flat on the drill press table and just come up and touch the block, and then I can just work this until it's the right diameter that I need. So one thing you want to do is stop every once in a while and just kind of give this a turn just to see how it is. I can tell it's still rough on this side, and it's coming through nice on this side. It's smooth. I'm not down to the right diameter yet. I still have quite a ways to go, but stopping and looking at it is really important. And when you're using this block or even the file, and you have it up against the block like that, or the plug, this should not move in and out. If it's moving in and out like this, that means that the plug is starting to turn oval or like egg-shaped. It's not completely round. So that's why it's important to go really slow. Now that I'm getting down to almost the right diameter, I want to be careful and I want to be accurate. So this is a little caliper, and what I did was measured the bit that I used to make the hole in the body. So I just take the calipers and I go up to the plug, and it doesn't fit past, so I know I have a lot more to go. So now I can fine tune it. Okay, here we are, the finished product. You can tell that's perfectly round, nice and smooth, just like anything you'd buy in the store as far as doweling. And except this one's custom made to the hole. It's kind of neat though. It's gone from the rough part where I started out and then where I filed off all those corners, and then down to the finished product here. It's kind of neat. So now we're going to try it out in the guitar body, obviously, make sure that it does actually fit, and that is really snug. That's in there pretty much all the way, and there are no gaps on there. And what I'm going to do is just take a pencil, draw around here. Now I know exactly where to trim this in, so I'll cut it back here. Okay, there we go. There's my plug. Perfect plug, fits perfectly. You just got to glue it in. And when I glue it, I'm just going to line up the grain so that it matches, goes the right direction. Not a big deal because this body's going to end up being painted, but there we are. Cool, working well. So before I go ahead and put that plug in, I'm just going to fill in these old screw holes. And this is just a toothpick, a round toothpick. Just trim the ends a little bit just to take off that super pointy edge. Just push it in all the way. Take a pencil, just mark it. And then you have a mark here. It shows you exactly where to cut. Cut a little bit more than what you need, about 1/8 of an inch or not even that. And you can just use a knife. You just rotate it like that on the blade carefully. This is kind of a dull blade, so it's alright. Just rotate it a couple of times, just kind of basically score it. Then it just snaps right off. Gluing's pretty straightforward and simple. Just get, that's the other part of the toothpick, and just try to get some of that glue in there. There's really no wrong way of doing this. Get some good glue coverage. Just make sure it's in. It doesn't have to be, you know, shoved in really hard or anything. Okay, same with the other one. Same thing with the screw holes. Like, it's never going to be completely invisible. Like I say, with changes of humidity with wood, when you do things like this, it's always going to show up, no matter what, to some degree, anyways. You know, and like I said, in this case, it's going to be a relic paint job, so the chances of, you know, it's not really going to be noticed, and it's underneath the body. You'd have to turn the body upside down to see it. Okay, so it's on with our plug, and you know, like I said before with the screw holes, it's pretty much straightforward. Just glue it in, and I like to put a little bit of glue on both parts. So just get some glue on here, and then I'll just smush it around a little bit. I'm kind of overkill when it comes to glue. I'd rather put too much on and wipe it off than not enough. So, I mean, not that this plug will ever fall out. You can put 2 drops of glue on it and it's not falling out. But still, you know what I mean? I want to make sure there's lots of glue. So I got the grain lined up just to make it match. It's not even a matching grain, but just push that in. Okay, we got that pounded in, and not super tight. Like I said, I don't even need to put a clamp on that because it is a tight fit to begin with. There's nothing that's going to push it out. So once that glue dries, and after about 10 minutes, there's no getting that thing out of there anyways. Once glue starts getting pressure on it, it really starts setting up fast. So there we go. That's our perfect plug. For stuff like this, I like to use a barrel sander in the drill press, and that'll take most of this off. And I'm just kind of roughing it right now, and I've got the tape obviously to protect the body. I don't want to take any of the original wood off, just basically that plug. And then I'll work it down a little finer later with like a sanding block and some sandpaper. So like I said, this is just rough right now, but it's pretty close to the contour of the body. And I'm just going to finish that off with a little sanding block by hand, and that'll be pretty close to the right contour, the right shape. Alright, all that work paid off. It's looking really good. I don't think you can get better than that. Of course, right now it's obvious because it's a different color and a different grain pattern, but this isn't going to be finished clear coated. Anyways, it's there is going to be a paint job on it, and like I said, it's going to be a relic job, so you know, it's going to be scuffed and scratched and all kinds of stuff. So this will be pretty much invisible. What I used was the sanding block, and I used that to rough out or to finish off this a little bit more. A pretty coarse sanding block, and then I used a piece of sandpaper to help blend it in after that. And try not to spend too much time on the plug because you don't want to end up rounding it off. You want to keep that radius to the rest of the body, and then you don't want to have it come along and then flat and then back to a radius. So and same thing with the original part of the body. You don't want to spend too much time sanding there, and you'll have like a dip, and then it comes up and a bump and then a dip. So you have to really pay attention, touch it a lot, just feel. It's like braille. It's like, oh, there's a little high spot. You sand that a little bit more. But once you get it down to where you think it's nice and smooth and even with the rest of the body, you kind of blend it in, you kind of feather it back out. And what you're taking off of the original body is micro thin. I barely even went through the finish. So that looks pretty good. And from here on in, as far as finishing that, it should need a sealer, but I'm not touching it. I'm not finishing this body, so my friend Scott can take care of that. He knows the paint that he's working with, and he can you can put a little sealer on there and blend it in and take care of it from there. So on with the next step.